Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another round of Tuesday Night Legacy, where we show off the best format that Magic has to offer. My name is Eugene, and this is round one from our big single elimination tournament on April 8th. This is actually starring myself on the left playing an Esper pile, and Andrew on the right playing a blue-red Delver list. So, trying to outvalue the opponent, definitely playing a mid-range grind fest myself, and of course the Delver player wanting to out-tempo me as much as possible. Let's get into it. So here we are getting into, I guess, the second turn of the game. Just the first turn, not too interesting. Play an Underground Sea, getting a Wasteland, and then playing a Scrub Land, getting Wastelanded again. Andrew spending both of his first turns with those Wastelands on those duels. Plenty of duels to be had. On my side, throwing down that Tundra, and we see Andrew coming in with that Delver of Secrets. Of course, the mainstay of the deck. As long as he can get this Delver to stick as an Insectile Aberration, just trying to win by cracking in with that. A Stifle off the top, attacking for 3. Of course, the Insectile Aberration being a 3-2. Trying to respond to the attack with a not Ephemerated Solitude, but an Evoked Solitude. The Stifle trigger, getting rid of the Swords to Plowshare effect, paying 1 to try and ephemerate it, and that getting dazed. So quite a bit of card loss there for myself. Andrew spending 2 of his several effects to make sure that his Delver stays alive. This Cabal Ritual, or Cabal Therapy, is going to name Force of Will, trying to take a card out of Andrew's hand, or as many Force of Wills as he had, just revealing a bunch of Lightning Bolts and that other Stifle. So we see a Brainstorm going off. Andrew trying to make sure to keep that Delver alive, knowing that fetch lands are really bad right now with that Stifle in hand. He's going to go ahead and fetch down to 19. Delver already doing quite a bit of damage. Down to 14 on my side. Only have 5 more turns. Even less with this Dragon's Rage Channeler in play now. Just a Wasteland pass. Not entirely certain how many card types are in the grave. Not enough to Delirium, apparently, as the DRC comes across for 1. We see a double Wasteland. 3 damage from the Lightning Bolt. 3 more damage from the Lightning Bolt, and that's 4 damage for the next turn, and we're going to go to game 2 here. Bad showing for the deck, but great showing for Delver, doing exactly what it was supposed to, protecting its win conditions and getting across with extra damage. See a Delver come down turn 1 for Andrew, always a great play. I'm going to go ahead and sack the Flooded Strand while the blue mana is tapped in case there's a Stifle in hand. And get a bird. But that bird will not resolve with the Daze. A Natural Ponder off the top, not knowing it's there, but still getting 3 damage in anyways. Gonna go ahead and resolve a Dragon's Rage Channeler, and we're kind of looking like we did last game. Little hairy for myself here. Gonna try and go for another bird. This one's gonna stick, get to draw an extra card. And is it worth it to waste here? I decide no, it's not. I already know that he's got that island in hand as well. So trying to set myself back to set him back wasn't going to happen. We see a Mishra's Bauble come down. Great for that Delirium. 3 types in the grave for Andrew right now. Missing Sorcery or Creature or something like that. Gets to look at the top card of my library, and he's going to get to draw an extra card. Hey, there's the 4th type. So we're going to see a Surveil trigger resolving here. Has to really think about this one. Must be an important card. We don't know what the other 3 cards in Andrew's hand are. Looks like it was a Ponder that he was looking at, trying to decide. That's a pretty stacked Ponder there. It's another Ponder, Expressive Iteration, and another Delver. So he's going to go ahead and draw that Delver. Maybe he's going to play the Delver? So that's a lot of damage coming across. Go ahead and trade that bird for the DRC, kind of take away some of that Surveil advantage, and get hit for another 3. That second Delver coming into play here. Already down to 13. Gotta start making some serious plays if I'm gonna stick around in this game. Have to think about it real hard. Paying 1. Prismatic Ending. Gonna get rid of a Delver of Secrets. Just have to pay 1. The Converge mana cost there with the CMC of 1. Pass the turn back. Reveal the Expressive Iteration off the top. Gonna go ahead and cast it. Andrew does know that I have the Mystical Dispute in hand, though, which is going to get used here. He doesn't have enough mana to pay for the Mystical Dispute, and since it was targeting a blue spell, it only costs 1 blue for me. Trying to set back the card advantage that Expressive Iteration would have created. Still taking 3 damage, though. Got 4 more turns to deal with. Fire off this Grief here, trying to see what Andrew's got left in hand, and Andrew's trying to decide whether it'd be a good idea to force here or not. Because if I have the Ephemerate, then it's going to stick around and take both cards anyways. He decides that it's better just to force here to get rid of it completely, which leaves the Recruiter of the Guard open so that I can go and get Solitude. And now that Andrew is completely out of cards, fire off this Solitude immediately, exiling Palace Jailer to get rid of Andrew's final threat. So Andrew is in top deck mode, which is always bad for decks, but not too bad for the Blue-Red Delver list, as there are so many ways to see the top cards of your deck. We see a Ponder here that he knew was coming, decided to take that Brainstorm. We saw Lightning Bolt in another land. So we can actually get rid of those top cards by sacrificing that Misty Rainforest. The last card in my hand was another Recruiter of the Guard. Ask if it resolves. It does. Gonna go fetch up something that's gonna try and dig me out of this advantage, or card disadvantage, which with a Mull Drifter. Now this does normally cost 5, but if you pay 3, you can evoke it into play, draw 2 cards, hoping to draw an Ephemerate off of it. Because if you can hit the Mull Drifter with an Ephemerate, it draws you 4 cards for 4 mana. Doesn't sound amazing when I say it that way, but it's still a pretty good play. See it in Pauper all the time. The Mull Drifter is just a 1-of, so not trying to do it constantly. You can also bring it back with the card brought back. Gonna pay 3 here. Attack for 2. Start beating in. You know, if nothing else happens in 10 turns, you get to win the game with your 2 1/1s attacking. Andrew does have that Lightning Bolt that he is ready to fire off at that Mull Drifter if I drew the Ephemerate, but did not. And just let it die from the evoke trigger. Pass the turn back. I'm going to get rid of the final card on top of the deck that he knew about. I think it was another land. Shuffle back up. And I think he's just going to draw here. There's no reason to Lightning Bolt anything. Doesn't really generate any advantage. So yeah, just drawing for turn. That looks like a Wasteland that was drawn. Yeah, a Wasteland that was drawn. Going to get the Tundra, getting rid of access to my blue mana. Still only have 1 white or black mana, and then a bunch of Wastelands. Think holding back here because I want to have access to that mana. Even if it's colorless, it's still really important to be able to cast things with larger mana costs. Asking really quick about Delver of Secrets and Dragon's Rage Channeler to cast that Plague Engineer. Was going to name Human, but it caught that Lightning Bolt that we knew Andrew had for the longest time. Going to see a Brainstorm. Force of Will, another Brainstorm, and a land. Deciding to keep the Brainstorm and the Force of Will and pass it right back, I think. Unless he casts another Brainstorm here. Seems like it would be a better idea to cast the Brainstorm at the end of my turn. 1 mana is going to get a Cabal Therapy. Cabal Therapy, of course, you have to name the card, have no idea what you're going to name, and of course, when you Brainstorm in response to a Cabal Therapy, you can just fill your hand with stuff you don't really care about and protect the things that you do care about by putting them back on top of your library so your opponent doesn't have access to be able to discard them. hiding the Murktide region I think he had there. And now I'm trying to think, okay, what garbage did he leave in his hand besides probably a land that I could possibly name here? And I think end up going with Lightning Bolt. And of course that's not in his hand, it's a Force of Will. But this is still important information to know. Now I can resolve pretty much anything I need to. Although I didn't have access to any white mana, so can't cast that Ephemerate in my hand. Delver of Secrets off the top. That's what the other card was that Andrew had access to. Playing an Underground Sea. Not the best with an Ephemerate and a Brought Back in my hand. But it is still something. So we see an Ephemerate. Going to flicker the Recruiter or the Guard. Needed something to immediately kill this Delver of Secrets, so I went and got the 1-of Shriekmaw, paying black and colorless to destroy that non-artifact, non-black creature. Have to deal with Andrew's threats as soon as I can, especially when there's openings to. Because if I don't, then that's definitely going to kill me. Andrew did pay his Force of Will to get rid of that flickered Ephemerate, or else I would have gotten even more advantage out of that Recruiter of the Guard. Finally drew a land. So now, with 2 white mana in play, can cast that Brought Back. Gonna pay 4 to play Grief, see if there's anything in Andrew's hands. It was a Price of Progress, which would have basically annihilated me with all those non-basics I have in play. Just barely avoiding losing the game that way. See a Ponder for Andrew, doesn't like anything on the top. Shuffle it up and see a fresh one. With these 3 creatures in play, Andrew is facing down lethal, not this, but next turn. So decide to turn it sideways, 5 damage, down to 1. And don't want to get full of myself here, so go ahead and generate as much advantage as possible. Flashback Cabal Therapy from the grave, sacrificing a Recruiter of the Guard, and blow up the Steam Vents to Brought Back, which is going to bring those permanents back to play, getting the Wasteland back, getting another Recruiter trigger, and choosing Baleful Strix to generate advantage in case he somehow deals with my board. But he looks at the top card of his library and says, all right, let's go to game 3. So barely squeaked that one out, and we are into the final game of the round. Starting with a Mishra's Bauble. No Delver of Secrets. Turn 1, thankfully. Just a Windswept Heath for myself. And gonna fire off those Griefs. Exile a Grief to play a Grief. Seeing if I can discard a card from Andrew's hand. He decides that's fine. Looking at Double Daze. Take the Expressive Iteration instead. No Ephemerate. But search up the plains anyways. And pass the turn. Do not want to get blown out by that Wasteland. Now here's the Delver. Turn 2, of course. And hasn't flipped yet. Trying to decide what to play. Looks like an Underground Sea. Underground Sea a little bit awkward in the deck. You want to see a lot of white mana rather than the blue-black mana. Alright. That Delver naturally flipping once again for the 3rd time. Maybe 4th time this round. 3 damage. Going to see that Ponder. Double Daze being very difficult to play around, especially since a lot of the spells I'm trying to cast are a little bit more intensive. So basically trying to figure out how to get something to resolve by having an extra 2 mana at any given time, pushing me back several turns. Pretty good just for that knowledge for the Delver deck. Gonna think about playing this Wastelands. Decides, yeah, Wasteland's good. And we're gonna see another. We're gonna see a Wasteland come down here. Decide to fetch. Gonna use the Wasteland for mana in response to Andrew destroying it with his own Wasteland. Then the second Plains comes into play because of the Windswept Heath resolving, trigger resolving. Gonna do a Swords to Plowshares on this Delver. Having that 2 extra mana, Andrew decides it's not worth it to set himself back 2 turns by bouncing both of his islands to hand to still have it resolve. Pointless. Gonna get that Murktide Regent. This boy is only coming in with 2 counters, but still big enough. 5/5 can still end the game in 3 turns. Gonna go for a Muldrifter, just evoked. It's gonna eat one of those dazes. I think I'd gotten to the point where I needed to start just playing spells to get those dazes out of his hand. Another land. Crack. Ask for the Stifle. No Stifle. Get to actually get the land, which is nice. It always feels bad to pay 1 life, lose a land, and then not get anything for it. Gonna see a Recruiter of the Guard. Apparently those other 2 cards are not a Force of Will. Or at least Andrew's really thinking about it. It might be a Force of Will. Looking through the deck, there is a Solitude in my hand, and so I think the idea here was just to find the most useless white creature card I could in this matchup. So I go and get the Skyclave Apparition and pitch it to the Solitude in my hand. And this is targeting the Murktide Regent, having Andrew gain 5 life. Dealing with those threats. Unfortunately, Andrew had 2 Lightning Bolts in hand, dropping me from 9 to 3, and he top decks a Chain Lightning, dealing the final 3 damage and getting him to go on to round 2. As you can see, sometimes direct damage can get you there with that Delver list. If you want to know either of these deck lists, they are in the description of this video below. And if you haven't already, please like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us. Thank you to Spellhold Games for allowing us to record these videos. We would literally not exist without you, so thanks for that. And just to let you know, I'm actually taking a break for a couple of these videos. I'm going out of town, so Bryson will be taking over for the rest of this tournament. Our round 2 is going to be Delver versus Days Undoing, so we'll see you then.